Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 807, Richard's here, and we've got a Windows event coming up, so we've got lots to talk about, speculating what we'll see there, what will it be called, what will we see, and what will it mean for business as well as consumers. We're talking about new builds, Windows 10, why haven't we got any? Well, we've got an answer for that one. Internet going down, what happened this week, we'll be talking about that. New devices from Samsung, look interesting, and lots more, so let's get over to Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Ian.
Yeah, good evening. And I'm very disappointed you are in your usual room and not in your pool outside, your paddling pool, as you described to me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, I did think to myself, I could do tonight's show from the pool, or rather the inflatable blow-up body of water that's sat in the garden. And I thought it'll be great now. It won't be so good in an hour's time when I'm shivering and freezing cold. But yes, it's one of those things where it's not a paddling pool, but it's not a swimming pool. It's an inflatable blow-up ring with water in it.
Sounds fantastic.
It was nice today.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's lovely weather here, because I've been stuck inside all day, and I'm now talking from my little studio here. We've got some more equipment in. I am rapidly running out of space now, but I got something slightly different. I don't know if I can see this without breaking everything. I probably can't, so I won't. A Yamaha Dx7 I've got here, which what I'll do, I'll show you a screenshot. I know some people, non-musicians, probably think, what on earth is he talking about? But yeah, I'll share my screen. You can see it for the visual viewers on there. But yes, so the Yamaha Dx7 is there. That's the Dx7. So this is a standalone unit of the Yamaha Dx7, which was the synthesizer of the sort of mid 80s. I think it came out in 83, and all the things like the bass line on Take On Me and the lead line and everything else. Remember the bells from the beginning of the Top Gun theme that goes ding? That kind of came from there. Oh, the flute on Tina Turner, What's Love's Got to Do with It, and the electric piano on every 80s ballad. Whitney Houston, Phil Collins, all those kind of things. So I've just got that patched in tonight, so I'm quite excited to see what I can do with that, but it can be a lot of bells and very 80s style sounds. So that's just set up in my rig, but I have really nowhere else to put all this stuff now. But we are not going to be talking about that tonight. What we have to talk about, we have Windows news. More speculation than
I would say news-ish. Yep.
Yeah. We have some new information on builds as well. I did see something new from Samsung. We're talking about ARM devices, which we can talk about as well. And and some other. We had a thread of comments as well, which I need to bring up for us on last week's show about builds. So I'll bring that up ready for later. So first, I think we should talk about the announcement that Microsoft made last week, inviting us all to an event in a couple of weeks.
That's right. Yes, the 24th of June, I believe, isn't it? Where all will be revealed after, obviously, not much was said at build, and I guess we're expecting there to be something, and here it is. Well, here it's going to be.
Yeah. So what did they actually didn't? They gave us very few details, didn't they, on what was actually going to be shown off.
Yeah, I mean, they basically gave us a picture, didn't they? Without many round edges, I noticed.
Yeah, so yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I guess it's done its job quite well, because I've seen people dissecting that picture with going through the different the shadows and everything. So I've got the picture up on the screen, but it's got the usual Windows logo on there, but the shadow, well, it's not really a shadow, it's the light that comes through the window. Now, it's obviously this is all rendered, I'm not suggesting it's real, but is the light comes through, but there's no bar in the middle. Because you've got the four window panes, and you've got the vertical line, there's no horizontal line in there, suggesting that it's Windows 11.
Yeah, I mean, that would, I think, wouldn't somebody have to eat some fairly substantial humble pie? Because I can remember when Windows 10 came out, there was the whole, there'll never be a Windows 11. This is it. It's Windows as a service from now on. So yeah, Windows 11 could be. I mean, I can see why people have drawn that conclusion. Kind of would hope they'd move away from the numbering scheme by now, but well, we'll see.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I kind of laughed and thought that people that's just taking it too far. But I see that a lot of people are actually thinking that is the case, that's what they're going to do. We talked about it last week, but my thoughts were, well, if it's not going to be Windows 10, then it would be Windows.
And exactly. Yes. I mean,
it wasn't be another name.
I mean, I would have thought Windows, and then maybe you could put perhaps a year or some code word next to it. So Windows something. I think going Windows 11 would seem to be just a strange thing to do, particularly since, again, I'll look back in my notes, but I'm pretty sure there was a lot of talk years ago that they would never do. They were going to move away from this numbering convention completely. So yeah, it's an odd one. Although that said, I don't know if you saw, I think last night there was an indication of a rebranding elsewhere as far as Windows was concerned.
Oh yeah, this is the Windows Virtual Desktop for Azure, or
that's right. Windows Virtual Desktop, which is Microsoft's Windows in the Cloud service, has been renamed to Azure Virtual Desktop because thou shalt not mention the W word.
Yeah, maybe that's what the complete rebrand is. It's going to be called Azure for the desktop.
Well, I'm surprised no one's noticed the fact that the principal color of that screenshot is very Azure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you can make what you want out of this. You can say, "Oh, there's rainbow things there." Perhaps that's an indication of the recently patented color camera. So it's just, or and the caller there is that a start button I can see perhaps? I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps because the lines in the center indicates that the UI is going to be centered.
yes, all these things. So I think it's one of those things that it's good to fire up the old speculation gun, but I think on the whole we'll just have to wait until June 24th. Personally, I'm just pleased it's happening because after build, which didn't really have much around kind of what was coming next, apart from a few hints dropped by Satya Nadella, I think it's good that they followed up so quickly with this event. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Gary thinks is might be coming down the pipe from a developer standpoint.
Yeah, and I actually think that from a developer standpoint, I don't think there's going to be a huge amount changing. It's all about the UI refresh. I think this, isn't it? And maybe the store. The store, I think, is a different story for developers. But I think the UI, while it often it sets a trend, when the main operating system gets a look, developers like to sort of copy that look. So maybe developers will get to refresh it, but I don't think there's going to be any API changes.
I imagine you're right, Vinny. Again, at this point, as I think we've said before, it takes a while. It takes a while for things to filter through into the mainstream, and I think doing this at the end of June, you'd be unlikely. And developers, as far as I know, apart from the favoured few, haven't really heard much about what's next for Windows after the demise of Windows 10X. So I think it's nothing will come out of this as far as third-party developers are concerned now, really, until next year, because just of the sheer lead times involved. But then again, I mean, how many third-party developers are really doing Windows desktop apps anymore? Anyway, it's all service-based and web-based.
Yeah. I think so, and I think the rumors are, and I think Microsoft, Satya Nadella hinted at this about the new store being open and things, and developers will be able to have their own payment methods and distribution networks and things like that. That will be a story for developers, but the actual, the UI changes, they're not going to be. They're not going to make much difference to developers at the moment. So this is really one of those rare events where actually they want consumers to watch it. Although it's not necessarily aimed at consumers; it's aimed at the press and enthusiasts to watch and spread the word from there. But it's going to be the first time since we've had a big Windows event like this, I can't even remember in the Windows 10 era. Maybe when they announced the features for the creators update or the anniversary update. I think that was the last time they actually did an event. I'm sure Panos Panay will be pumped anyway.
Oh yes, most definitely. But and we'll see if there's any devices there too. But yeah, I think one thing you can be sure of is consumers, it's not a focus anymore for Microsoft.
But this event, I think, yeah, will be the user interface changes. So I think we're going to see the potential to the new start menu, the new settings, the new taskbar. I've heard rumors of Windows widgets, which makes me think back of this Vista widgets coming back.
I suppose so. I mean, I guess that window there on the wall could be an ActiveX desktop.
This is this right. Okay, this is you've heard it here first. ActiveX desktop for Windows 2021.
Exactly. Exactly.
You need to have Internet Explorer 4 or higher for it to work.
401. Come on now.
This is a kind of perhaps this event is akin to that release where you had the Windows 95 UI and then Windows 98 or Windows. Windows 95 with the active desktop and all the bits switched on was essentially what Windows 98 was, wasn't it? So it was a bit of a skin over. You turn the active desktop on, it was a bit of a skin. So this is kind of the thing, and I think they're getting Windows 10. They've got the UI changes that they've been storing up for some time, and released in one big bang, which is pretty much what I certainly was hoping that they would do. We've talked about for the last few years, rather than releasing these UI changes bit by bit to insiders, once a month or something like that, and then kind of getting lost in the. They just get those changes sort of get lost in the. It's better to have them all a coherent set of user interface changes delivered in one update that everybody knows is there and can see, and perhaps it will get rid of all these these context menus that are in white and some are in black and some look like Windows 95 and some look like Windows 2000, and it's a good opportunity to get all this done in one hit.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think certainly it has been a real issue with Windows 8 and Windows 10, where these things have just taken a long time to remove the previous generation of iconography and visualization. So I think they have been going through updating icons, updating, removing more and more bits that make you fall back into the old school Windows. So more control panel things have moved into the more modern setting screen. So hopefully, as you say, perhaps they have been saving up a full-on refresh. I mean, my concern is they'll say, here's what's next for Windows. It's going to come in 22H1. So
that'll be interesting. That's the other thing to see is the timelines.
Well, exactly, yes, because if it's June 24th, then then you've really only given yourself 3 or 4 months to get this stuff out.
I'm just fiddling around my hub at my network. My switch has lost power. It's not causing a problem at the moment, but I want if the Wi-Fi drops, I'll lose the connection, but I'll leave it. I won't fiddle around too much. So that's it. My speculation is that we will get this announcement on the 24th. We'll start to get some builds with the bits in, and then they'll be going for an October release.
Yes, I hope you're right.
Or the October release. This is my other thought: is the October release is what we're currently testing now, and this is why we're on CO release, what was it? CO release, the CO branch anyway that we're on now, and the build that we're on, 2.1.3.9.0 currently testing, that will be the build that will switch to the beta channel in a couple of weeks, and then that will stay in there till October and become the 21H2, and then all this shiny new stuff will be 22H1.
Yes, I mean, I do worry that could well be the case, and that's a long wait because obviously we were expecting 10X to appear. That didn't happen. Then lots of excitement about this mysterious refresh, which people said, oh, it's going to come this year. If it doesn't come this year, and we have to wait until this time next year, that will be bad.
Yeah, it's a long wait. The other side of this is all very nice and it's really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all these things. But from enterprise point of view, they probably don't want any of these nice new shiny things. I certainly, with my day job hat on, thinking, oh, I don't really want to send user interface changes out because, with the slightest movement in a button or a placement of an icon causes support calls. So I wonder what's going forwards, what's going to happen to the business side of Windows 10. So, with enterprises using the professional or the enterprise SKUs, or with Windows Update servers, are they going to get all this new shiny stuff potentially this year or next year, or are we going to see a split where the enterprise will stick to how they've got it now, or will it even just be a group policy to make it switch between, to look like it looks at the moment?
It's a tricky one. I mean, I think if you're the sort of user that cares about the appearance and keeping things stable, you'd probably be on the long-term servicing channel anyway, wouldn't you? So you'd be using, I guess is it 1809? Was that the last one that was yeah? So I guess there'll be that means you must be due on this year. I mean, I'm not guaranteed, but I would think probably this autumn would probably be the next long-term servicing channel. But those things stay valid for years and years and years. So if you're concerned, then you can go for that. Otherwise, I would think if you'd have time to roll out training and things before support ends for previous versions. So you've probably got 1 or 2 or 3 years to actually get yourself organized if there is going to be a major interface change. But obviously, it would be useful to know what that's going to be. That's the whole point of the insider program, to give users a heads up on what's changing.
Yeah, I mean, so from my consumer point of view, I want to see the new features, the new look, as soon as possible. But from my training day job point of view, I'm thinking, no, perhaps I don't want to see this. Just an example. I mean, when we switched from Office 2016 to Office 365. Most people really loved it, but the search box is in a slightly different position in Outlook, and it generated support calls, and people wanted it moving back. And and if that, when you're dealing with a few hundred users, that's not too bad. It's handling. But if you've got thousands of users, like the NHS, and rolling out a new version, that's a massive support issue. When suddenly everybody wants to ring up and say, "Can I move my start menu back to the left-hand side again?" You've got to be able to manage that and control that.
Then perhaps Microsoft need to control themselves better. I mean, as I say, going down the LTSC route does mitigate things to a certain extent. Although now I think about it again, I do apologize, this is off the top of my head, but I think, wasn't it as of this year, the Windows 10 LTSC is going to switch to a 5-year servicing plan down from 10 years. So if they change things are going to change. So yes, I mean, maybe you're right. Perhaps there will be some form of group policy to put things back where they were, but I kind of doubt that Microsoft will do that. They tend to seem to be quite happy to shift things around, like the Outlook search box, and it's only when they're really forced to, such as putting IE compatibility mode into Edge, that they'll do kind of give a nod to the way things were. But sometimes, would you call it arrogance? There does seem to be a feeling that they'll simply change things and you'll all be dragged along. So hence, if they are going to unveil these changes on the 24th of June, one would hope there would be, I just think insiders need a bit more time to digest them and look at them. And enterprises will need time to plan training. And I think if they're going to go live in the autumn, second half of 2021, seems all a bit tight, all a bit rushed. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you could be right. Well, we'll wait and see. I mean, I think that's the different strands is a lot of us are going to be looking for what's new and what's going to be like, but then the business is going to want to know how it impacts them as well. So whether they'll do that all in one event or they'll split that into multiple events, I'm not quite sure. I think obviously the focus will have to be on the changes. So. But they have been quite good on the support, business enterprise support. So we'll see. Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's been interesting. Like I said, we I think we're not going to get any builds for a while because of this. In fact, we had no build last week. We're on 21390, and we got it's one of their famous things. I know you love these.
Oh,
testing
yes,
the servicing pipelines.
Yeah, as I saw this, this is a 21390.1000, which is it doesn't include anything new, and it's designed to test our servicing pipeline. So that must be the world's best tested servicing pipeline, because they're always doing it. You think, crikey, how often must you need to test this thing? But yes, yet again, although that said, that occasionally when they say that, they end up breaking stuff. So be a little bit careful.
Yeah, that did happen before, didn't it? Yeah. So so they did that, but I'm not quite sure. You've got to, if you take it on face value, what Microsoft say is that they're going to be testing their pipeline to deliver multiple cumulative updates, which they haven't been doing. So over the next few weeks, I think they said, I think it was weeks, several weeks, they're going to be doing that, and we're only going to see 21390 and then updates for it. So we're not going to see any new builds, but it does seem a bit of a coincidence that is running up to the Microsoft, to the Windows event.
Exactly. Yes, it's timing is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Part of me thinks I wish they just say, we've got so much good stuff coming, but we can't talk about it because the event's not till a couple of weeks, so we're not giving you a build. So there you go.
Exactly.
But,
we're currently doing lots of inside flighting at Microsoft to make sure this stuff actually works, and we're going to give it to you on 24th of June, but we'll see.
Yeah. So so there's going to be no new builds for the next few weeks anyway, just these cumulative updates. So my Surface Go has been getting a bit sluggish recently, so I was going to do a reset on it, but I'm not sure now whether to wait till we get one of these new builds with the exciting stuff in and do a reset to get it all back to clean, or to do it now in preparation for that. I'm not sure which is the best option. I think I might just leave it for now.
Yes, exactly. You've got a new Yamaha toy to play with anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I like to break stuff, though. You know that. But yeah, I think I'll probably do that. So so we're not going to get any new exciting builds for the next few weeks, which is a shame.
I would say no change from normal then. There's not been any exciting builds for a long time.
Yeah, we've not had anything for a while, and I think we'll get off that CO release one. So my guess is that once they've announced everything, we'll be switched to a new branch that'll have all the exciting new features in. And it wouldn't surprise me if 21390 stuck around for some kind of, maybe release later this year, or as a long-term service, or some used somewhere for something. Maybe that's why. But of course, all these things that we're testing, they can all be rolled into the. They don't have to be a part of this build, do they? So they could all be put into the beta channel, and then just shipped as a monthly cumulative update. But anyway, we'll have to see. So anyway, all excitement for then. So at least it gives us a few weeks to speculate. And what's the chance, you think, the new name leaking before the event?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it'll definitely be leaked. So at the moment, I'm sticking with, I think it's just going to be called Windows, because I just can't believe they'd tie themselves down to a number again. I know everyone's saying Windows, but I can't believe they'd tie themselves down to a number again. No,
and I really do hope that if they've done that, I really do hope that those 11 shadow type images are just them winding everybody up. I think that'd be great if that's the case.
Exactly. Yes, it might be kind of midway through an animation that we see during the keynote that then reveals something completely different that no one's expecting. That would be great.
Yeah, and just finally on that, do you think we'll see any new hardware?
I don't know. I think maybe not. I think unless it's probably more prosaic stuff like Surface Studio, Surface Laptop, that kind of thing. But I'd say probably something that's perhaps more deliverable rather than anything particularly exciting. And I think if one's hoping for consumer hardware, as in sort of PC type hardware, I think almost definitely not. I think there might be some extra stuff like some accessories maybe, but I think on the whole, I'd be surprised if there's any PC type hardware there that other than stuff that's quite stuff that can be delivered, because I think they did get burned quite badly with the whole Neo fiasco, because that was a bit of a black eye, really.
I think we'll probably see something along the lines of our partners, Lenovo, Samsung, HP, Dell, will be bringing you this new version of Windows in October. I think it would make sense to do that rather than a specific device. It'd be great to see it. Oh, and here's the new Surface Neo running Windows 11.
Yes, exactly. Here's the new HoloLens Neo edition. Now targeting consumers, and you see the reason we used a window there is because obviously when you put the headset on, it's like looking through a window.
Very good, yeah. And you see the 11 shadow everywhere. Now there is something new hardware that I saw announced last week. The Galaxy Book Go is a new ARM device. We were talking about not seeing much ARM, and here becomes it's essentially a budget device, isn't it? £399. Yeah,
really cheap actually. So that's running on the Qualcomm Snapdragon record, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the I'll show this on the screen. So that's the new Samsung Galaxy Book Go running the Snapdragon. So ARM based device, £399.
Yes, and running Windows 10 Home.
Yes, not 10x.
Yeah.
14-inch screen, not touch or anything like that.
But it is a 1920 by 1080 screen though, so again that's a decent resolution for that size. Yeah, it looks a nice little device actually. USB-C on there. It's got LTE built into it as well. I think there's two models, isn't there? There's a 4G and a 5G version. Yes, and I think also memory-wise, I think it only goes up to 8 gigs, doesn't it? Yeah, the cheap one is 4, and the expensive one, the 499 one, so relatively expensive, is 8 gig. I'd be interested to try one of these. I did see when they see them announced, I thought, oh, this might be a good device for doing Windows 10, 11, Windows 11, whatever, Windows Azure, whatever it's going to be called, testing. But then I thought, no, it's ARM. I'm really not sure whether I can manage with an ARM-based device. It's just because of the limitations and everything else. But then the other part of me thinks, well, maybe I should try and do that and put up with it. But it seems like $399 is a lot of money for a 4 meg device that I'm not going to use that much. Yes, I think anything involving Windows, even on ARM. I mean, obviously, the M1 Mac OS is a bit less memory hungry, but you wouldn't want to go less than 8 gigs. I think 4 gigs you'd have a very frustrating experience. But yeah, I kind of did buy that before going for the cheap. Yeah, but $499, that's not a bad price really for what that is. It's compared to how expensive ARM devices have been for Windows. So this may also give us a pointer to pricing for the to be announced developer device too. Yes, yeah, you're probably right. It looks really nice, I must admit. If I didn't have enough computing devices around, I would. Maybe if I didn't have the Surface Go and I was looking for a device with good battery life, and if I was on the road a lot, then I think this would be a device I'd definitely look at, especially with the connectivity options. I mean, the 4 or the 5G on there. Well, exactly. If you're out and about all the time. Yeah, I mean, it does look really good actually. I mean, obviously there is always the issue that if you buy a Windows and ARM device, you've got to be aware of what you're buying and the fact that if you are running Intel apps in compatibility mode, they're going to probably either, well, at worst not work or be a bit sluggish. But then again, as long as you know what you're buying, I think it's just a nice looking device. I'm trying to find a bad thing to say, but we've been asking for cheaper ARM-based devices for Windows for a while. This is a cheap ARM-based device compared to what's gone before. So yeah, I'm intrigued by it, and intrigued by the onboard connectivity as well. I might get one. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, this time you take the bullet and you get one. I've got so many laptops. I got the. Well, yeah, this is the problem I've got. I've got so many that I really don't need another one. But I did like the look of that. I did think about it, but no, I thought no. Yeah, it's a real shame the screen isn't touched though. I think that's a bit of a miss. Yeah, I do like.
I do use the touch, not so much on the Surface laptop, but on the Duo, on the Go, my Surface Go. I do use that all the time. And like I mentioned, I found a real niche with that device as it being my magazine archive reader. It's a great, the Go actually is great for reading magazine articles. And I've been browsing these old computer magazines and the old music magazines, and it's been a nice device for that. So I do use a touch screen in that. We take the keyboard off and just use it that way. But yeah, touch is a nice one. And once you've got device with touch, it's a bit of you still end up prodding the screen. I do it on my Dell, my work Dell, and which hasn't got touch, and I end up always forget.
Yeah, or you could be a company that's just got, say, a lineup that includes touchscreen tablets, but refuses bizarrely to put touchscreens on their laptops, like
Yes.
Apple.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Apple is also has just had its worldwide developer conference.
Oh yes, that's right. Anything interesting from that? I haven't paid a single bit of attention to it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say actually pretty interesting from a developer standpoint. I think the thing that grabbed me initially was FaceTime. I think FaceTime is going to be moved outside of the Apple ecosystem, so it can be run on web, which opens up FaceTime to more places than just Apple devices.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, when it was launched, what, 6 years ago, they said, oh, it's going to be open, and the standard is like, and Apple being Apple, of course it wasn't. It was locked down, and no one knew. But it appears to actually be being opened up, which I think is actually interesting and raises the potential that maybe iMessage could follow, which I think would be very interesting if iMessage moved to or became available on PC devices and Android devices, because it's it's a useful messaging platform. So I thought that was quite interesting. And also the other thing which caught my attention as well was what looks like a pretty extensive overhaul of Safari, Apple's web browser. Most notably, I think, is the arrival of extensions, which extensions on mobile devices, I think, also is potentially very interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not something that's possible at the moment on an iPad, is it? Or an iPhone, to have any of the extension stuff.
Exactly. And things like sharing tab groups across iPhones, iPads, and iMacs and things. So yeah, it's I mean other little bits and pieces like sort of improvements in the camera app and things, which will seem familiar to users who've had Office Lens and other tools in the past. But live text, which will look for text in images, look for objects, using visual lookups. So there's a few interesting things there. But as I said, for me, the most interesting thing though was definitely FaceTime, and I think Safari, because obviously macOS Safari has had extensions, I believe. However, iOS devices haven't. So I think that's quite that's a fairly major shift on Apple's part. And I think also the other Safari thing is, and correct me if I've misunderstood this, but I believe also you're going to be able to do more anonymized browsing, where it will kind of do like what sounds a lot like a VPN, in that it'll encrypt things and keep things anonymous, so your privacy gets more protected. I think Apple are really trying to pitch themselves as the privacy obsessed company.
Yeah, I think there was some like IP anonymizing type thing, which is a bit like the VPN, but
yeah.
I think VPN is one of those things that not everybody, people think is a good thing and not understand exactly what they're doing. It kind of, if you're not careful, it's the opposite of privacy. But
exactly. I mean, this sounds a bit more like Tor to me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did see that actually this afternoon. That one, so that looked quite good. The privacy stuff looks quite good, and I think it's certainly one way of differentiating yourself, or Apple differentiating themselves from Android and Google, and also it goes well after, if you really wanted to go after Google, as in their platform, then where it hurts them is the pocket is the advertising revenue, isn't it? So if you single yourself out as being the privacy and anti-ad revenue and that kind of thing, and people want that on Android, that's going to potentially hurt Google's income.
Well, exactly. Yes. I mean, I'm expecting to see sort of the start of a Chrome backlash fairly soon, as people begin to understand the fact there's no such thing as a free lunch, and know, Google want your information because their business model is based on selling ads. So they need to know as much about you as possible. Whereas Apple's model is not based on that. Their model is based on selling you phones and hardware that's too expensive that you probably don't really need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Microsoft is all about Azure, not Windows. Azure.
Yeah. Well, as a few weeks, it's going to be all Windows. Well, certainly from Panos, he's going to be pumped. So,
Azure Desktop.
I can't wait. It would be great if they said we were dropping the Windows name and it's going to be that. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I'd love to see that. But the Windows keys replace the little A key.
I mean, I just always reminds me of that reminds me of a story. I think it was who was it? It might have been Pete Conrad. I think he was the third man on the moon, and he was joking with Neil Armstrong. And he said something along the lines of if you had any guts, you wouldn't say that's one small step. What you would say is, "Oh my God, what's that?" And then cut your radio.
Yeah.
I probably remember that completely wrong. So many apologies to anyone who's going, "No, you didn't say that at all." But
well, we do know that space knowledge is a weakness from our quick quizzes.
Exactly, I get it wrong every time.
Yeah, they could do something funny like
that.
But
I think if Panos came out and said, "Okay, big news, everyone, we're going to call it Azure Desktop," and then mic drop, fooled ya.
Yeah, a test card. Yeah, well, it would be okay as long as they weren't using some content delivery network to redistribute that today.
So was TDL one of the sites affected by the Fastly issue?
No, it wasn't at all. No, so and I'm amazed I didn't get any tickets at work to our service desk for this, but I saw sites dropping like flies this morning.
It was terrible. Yeah, I mean, I think Spotify went down, Twitter went down. It was bad. I mean, it kind of highlighted, I think, one of the real pinch points of the internet. There's only 3 or 4, I think, providers that deal with the issue that failed.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some sites use Cloudflare, which is fine. But I think but obviously that's had its own problems.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So it's and when these sites, when these service providers go down, they take down so much of the internet with them. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, and I think I don't think people, like you said, realize how few there are of these companies and how interlinked everything is. I mean, for Spotify, you think who own everything of their own network. It's surprisingly that they don't, and Microsoft rely on other providers, and everybody relies on other providers somewhere on there, but there aren't that many, like you said.
Yeah, it was, and that started. I think today we saw things like The Guardian went down. I think even XKCD went down as well, which was a disaster for me because that's my favourite web comment. So. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and I think the Verge went down, and then Tom Warren managed to leave his Google Docs page in edit mode. So.
Poor old Tom. Yeah, I think Tom sent out the edit link instead of
yes, that was it. Yeah.
And so obviously Wags quickly hopped on and became Verge reporters for a few hours until it was sent to be locked down. But as I say, I don't think many journalists were made fun of that because you always think, "Whoa, crikey, that could so easily have been me." So
but for the grace of God,
exactly. But for the grace, not doing that. So but actually, I mean, I don't know if you follow Tom Warren's account, but he did actually make him pop on a brave face of things, and I think took it very, very well.
He did, yes, I did see that, and that's the thing where you try and react quickly to things like that, anyway, don't you? And you want to get something out there. Of course, nowadays everybody wants to get everything out there immediately. And you can't wait for stuff, so so the pressure is on when something like that happens. But I guess if forward, that is the kind of thing for your that you like those kind of things to write articles, but with a bit more time to reflect on them and to dig into them a bit more.
Yes, I mean, normally I mean, I think when Cloudflare went down, was it last year? I think Cloudflare had their wobble. I did spend some time talking to them, because it's better to find out what happened afterwards, and there's a whole post-mortem, which I think whenever there's an outage, you really get a feeling for the company involved. I mean, there was I think last week there was not an outage, but there was a very amusing thing happened where a developer sent out a tweet saying what could go wrong, and he was doing a push notification that said this if you see this could become a cautionary tale about not testing in production, and then accidentally sent that to like 100,000 Android devices by mistake, and which was obviously hilarious when it happened, but the guy then followed up with incredibly detailed explanation of what actually went wrong, because it was a really good learning exercise to go, well, here's what happened here. And obviously the words "do not test in production" were mentioned a few times, but also a lot of information about push notifications and libraries in Android, and being aware of the fact customers may not be running the same software that you're running. And it was a very interesting thing. So I think in the case of this as well, it's the same thing, where what will be interesting is the post-mortem in a few days' time as to what actually went wrong. And there's some companies, no names mentioned, that they go down and they take a lot of the internet down, and they say nothing at all, and you get no explanation. Whereas other companies, like, say again, Cloudflare is an example, they did provide a lot of information about what happened last year. I'm sure Farsi will do the same thing, because it helps you. If you know what happened, you'll also understand why it won't happen again. Whereas if a company doesn't explain what happened, then you think, well, how do I know you've not fixed the core problem there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just thought it was funny how many sites are just kind of tripped over. But yeah, it is part of the way we operate now, and it's also amazing of how reliant we are on this stuff as well. People are like, what do we do? It's like if when Office 365 goes down or something like that, Azure you can't sign in or something like that. So many people rely on all this stuff. And a few years ago, it would have been all on-prem. So Company X problems don't affect company Y's and everything else. But now everything's interlinked, and it does have a knock-on effect. So yes,
absolutely,
yeah. Interesting times. So I think that's just about everything I had for this week. I did see one thing, but I haven't got any details on this yet. But I did see that Android 11 might be hitting the Surface Duo, but not till August this year.
Wow, that's a long time.
Quite a long time, isn't it? That. Yeah, I know why.
That seems a ridiculously long time.
I've seen a couple of sites mentioning it. I think it might have started on Windows Central, because these sites mention all these rumors, and then it's a bit of you got to be careful, because it's a bit like that in the thick of it the thing, isn't it, where they're all reporting each other's rumors to be fact, and it's a circular thing. So I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll find out a bit more for next week. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing. It might be Windows Central that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've heard mutterings around Surface Duo, and but the rumors I've heard, I'm always very loath to write up rumors without some kind of official confirmation, or being able to confirm, as you say, being able to confirm by a source that's not quoting the same source for the. They get very circular. It can be a bit like citation needed, or articles citing each other. So I mean, I've heard it could be delayed, but I've also heard that there may be no Surface Duo 2 either. So, which I would be surprised if there's not.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I've heard that again, it's all here speculation, but I have heard that there will be one with the spec update, rather nothing major different. But we'll see.
I mean, that's what I'm expecting, but I am surprised that it's taking so long to get Android 11 onto the Duo, because last year I was wondering if that might be a delaying thing for the Duo. The wait for Android 11, because it's got all kinds of tweaks and things that make life easier for dual screen devices. So I'm surprised it's taken quite so long.
I think part of it is all because Android 10 didn't have all that stuff. They had to add that stuff themselves, and then when they're built into their OS, you've got to, I suppose, take those out and use the inbuilt ones.
Yeah.
So if you've made your own API for the dual screen layouts, you've got to take all that out and go with the default ones, and which aren't necessarily the same. So I imagine it's quite a lot of work. Whereas, UI changes are always the things that we see, but are probably easier than the API, changing the APIs underneath.
So do you reckon they might show off the Duo 2 as a just one more thing on June 24th?
No, no, it's all about Windows. Definitely all about Windows, unless it runs Windows.
Well, there we go. 10x. It's like, fooled you.
It's going to call Windows 11x. There you go. Surface Duo 2,
running Windows 11x.
Yeah,
wow.
Azure's desktop.
Some people's heads would explode if that happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, I think you're right. Yes, there'll be no Duo 2, and it'll be all about Windows. But I live in hope there'll be something exciting.
Yeah, so do I. And I didn't mention that I had a few comments on the tweet on my videos from last week. But really, to sum it up, it was people saying they were worried that there was no build last week, and why were we getting no new builds anymore, and not mentioning any, and we now know that it's because they're testing the service pipeline. So
exactly, once more they're testing the service pipeline. Hurrah, the best tested pipeline in the world. Hopefully it's not been hit by ransomware.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thanks to the commenters on YouTube on the comments from last week that about that one anyway. So we'll stay alert. We'll get some new features soon.
Exactly. Yes. Hopefully, you've only got 2 more weeks to wait.
Yeah. Right. So, Rich, whereabouts can we find you?
Mostly on Twitter @Richard_Speed.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go. Seems that all my network connections are plugged in, but my Surface is still refusing to use it. And I remember you have to reboot the dock for this. You would have thought you have to reboot docks and things like that. But yeah, so I'm going to go and reboot my Surface dock now and go and play a bit of electric piano on the TX7.
Oh, well done.
And I'm at iSticks on Twitter.
Well done. I shall be going to turn off my printer now, which is in my shed, and shouting at it because I don't understand why I have to turn it off and it says please wait. What is it doing? It's a printer. I just turn it off. No, I've got to wait for it. And when I turn it on, it boots itself up, and you think it's an inkjet printer. Anyway.
No, printers, especially inkjet printers. I don't have one anymore, but when I used to have one, I only used to very occasionally, usually when the kids wanted to print their homework out, and of course they leave it till the morning of going to school and say, I need to print this out early, I've got to do it for today. The printer would never cooperate, like it knew somehow that's what they'd done, and making them pay for it.
No, well, what mine does is I'll turn it on, or in the morning I'll put it on, and I'll have forgot to have turned it off cleanly the night before, and it will say something like, oh, I've restarted myself. I was not shut down properly last night. I think, you're a printer. I don't care. You've got one job to do: print stuff out.
It's like a toaster for a red dwarf.
It is like a toaster. It's like Marvin the paranoid printer. It really is. Here I am, rain the size of the planet, and all you want to do is print out expense reports. Okay.
Oh, there we go. You give me the inspiration for a show title.
Right, well, thanks for that, and we'll see you next week. Cheerio. Bye.